This is the Spotlight segment. Stay tuned for premium interviews, device unboxing and more.
And now we turn to our Spotlight section, and Warren reviews the phone he unboxed last week, and that's the OnePlus 10T.
Hi, Warren Carr here for Blind Android Users Podcast. This is reviewing the OnePlus 10T phone. During the unboxing of this phone, I had indicated that this was the very first for Blind Android Users Podcast, and in the same manner, this is the first time we will be reviewing a OnePlus device. So, for this review, I shall be looking at the following. 1. The setup screen, that is, we'll see what the setup screen looks like, and we'll go through that to where I input my username and password. 2. We'll look at the optional stuff that OnePlus brings us. 3. We'll look at the home screen and whether or not it supports the actions and all of that is after restoring my apps. 4. We'll take a look at the system settings and see what is different from the stock Android. 5. We'll look at the camera. 6. We'll do an audio check, that is looking at the microphone quality, and we'll use the HiQ MP3 recorder for this testing purpose. 7. We'll look at what happens after I update this to Android 13.0. And 8. It's the conclusion, talking about what I like and what I don't like. In my unboxing of the device, I had indicated that the battery came DOA, so I had recharged it, and now we'll turn it on and we'll look at the setup screen and proceed from there. I'll now hold down the power key and get started. I felt a little vibration and I'm waiting for it to come on. I am still waiting. I can see that I am now on the setup screen. Of course, unlike the Pixel phone where you feel that pulsating feel, this is not the case here. I would like to try the two methods of enabling accessibility. First, I'll put down my 2 fingers on the screen, and if I hear it say, keep holding your fingers to enable accessibility, then I'll let go. And then I will then hold the 2 volume keys down to enable the accessibility. I just wanted to make sure that it supports both. So now I'll put my 2 fingers down on the face of the screen. I am still holding, and this indicates that it does not support the 2-finger hold down, the legacy method. I will now let go and hold down the 2 volume keys instead. Here we go. I feel the vibration.
Press and hold both volume keys for 3 seconds to use TalkBack.
All right, let's do it.
TalkBack on. Held volume keys. TalkBack turned on. Welcome to TalkBack. Welcome to TalkBack, page 1 of 5. TalkBack is a screen reader intent.
There we are, and it does have proximity sensor because I just waved my hand over the proximity area near the top and it silenced TalkBack. Now I'm going to tap on the close button at the bottom.
Close button. Close tutorial. You can come back to it anytime in TalkBack settings.
And indeed, I do want to close.
Close button. Setup wizard. Hello.
And here we are on the setup wizard, which is basically typical of every Android phone. And here you have
English, United
things
States.
like the language selector.
Double tap to activate.
You tap there to select your language. Below that you have
Start
the
button.
start button.
Double
And
tap
then
to
below
activate.
that on the bottom right,
Vision settings.
you've got
Double
that
tap to
vision
activate.
settings. I will tap on that start button.
Start button. Setup wizard. OnePlus. Terms and conditions.
So the first thing we heard is the OnePlus terms and conditions. A little bit different than other devices that I've come across. And of course, like I said, this is our very first OnePlus device review. And so things are rather new here. Let's take a look, though, at what the terms and conditions, or some of the conditions about the terms and conditions.
Before starting, please read the terms and conditions carefully. Terms of service are the legal agreements between a service provider and a person who wants to use that service.
Okay.
Before starting, end user license agreement.
And
Double tap
I'm
to
just going to go
activate.
to the bottom and tap on the agree.
Agree button. Privacy policy and agreement. I agree to the terms of the privacy policy and end user license agreement.
Okay.
Privacy policy and agreement. Double
I
tap
keep
to
moving.
disagree button.
So disagree
Double
to
tap
the left.
Agree button.
Agree to the
Double
right
tap to
there.
activate. Connect to mobile network. If you have a SIM card, insert it now.
Now we hear it talking about a SIM card and asking if we do have a SIM card to insert it. However, I'm going to see if it supports eSIM, it's something that I use. I haven't been using a regular physical SIM card since 2018, and I'm not interested in phones that don't support that. So let's see what we got.
If you have a SIM card, skip button.
We got
Double
the skip,
tap
and I don't see anything to
back button. Window nav bar.
say, hey,
Double tap to
download an eSIM. So this tells me that the OnePlus 10T does not support eSIM. I'm going to tap on the skip since I do not have a physical SIM card.
Skip button. Window. Connect to Wi-Fi. Connect to Wi-Fi. Select a network in list.
And now I'm going to just tap on my Wi-Fi name and get going.
Connect to Wi-Fi. The mesh. Wi-Fi signal.
There we go. The mesh is my Wi-Fi.
Showing password keyboard. Wireless.
And
C. Out of list. Shift.
sure, of course,
One.
the typical of most recent Android phones, you can hear your password as you type. So I'm going to pause this recording and enter my information, then come back. And now let's double check to make sure that I'm connected.
The mesh. Connected. Wi-Fi signal full. Secure network.
And now I'm going to tap on the next button, usually at the bottom right.
Back. Button. Out of list.
Now putting my finger at the bottom right, instead I heard back. Let's check on the bottom left.
Set up offline. Button. Window.
So on the bottom left, we hear set up offline. So this is a little bit different. So I need to hit the back. Hope it doesn't take me out of the setup process.
Back. Button. Connect to mobile network. If you have a SIM card, insert it now.
We're back to the SIM card.
Skip. Button.
And I'm going to skip again,
Connect to
see what
Wi-Fi.
happens.
Connecting. This may take a few minutes. Checking for updates. This may take a few minutes. Installing updates.
This is rather interesting. So I had to go back to the previous screen where it talks about the SIM card
Just a few
and
moments.
then
On the apps
tapping
and data, you
on
can choose to transfer.
the skip the SIM card, and then it takes me to where I was supposed to go. So it's a little
Data
bit
transfer
different
available
when
or
it
in
comes
progress.
to the OnePlus. Something odd. I'd never seen that before. Anyway, so here we are on this screen.
You can choose to transfer your apps, photos, contacts, Google account, and more.
So I'm going to try to get it to connect to my account, or rather bring apps from my account. We'll check what we have at the bottom right.
Next. Button.
Tap on next.
Use your old device. Next. Button. Double tap to activate. Can't use old device. Button.
I'm going to tap on
Double tap
can't
to
use
activate.
all device because I don't want to hook up any phones right now. I'm going to bring it from the cloud instead.
Restore data without old device.
And okay,
Okay.
everything is
sec.
similar here.
Account setup. Checking info. Heading. Sign in. Sign in with your Google account. Learn
So
more.
now I'm going to put in all of my information. I'm going to pause this so you're not bored by that process. I'm going to put all of my information in, and once I'm connected, I'll be right back. I just finished putting in all of my information and have gone through the biometrics and all of that. That is the PIN, the face unlock, and the fingerprint. I do want to mention here in passing that both the face unlock and the fingerprint were easy to set up just as much as the PIN was. However, I do want to say, though, that the fingerprint is not as verbose as what you have when using, say, a Pixel phone or a Samsung phone, where it tells you to move to either the right or the left or down to find the fingerprint reader. It's not the same here on OnePlus. It's not that verbose. So all I had to do was simply keep putting my finger, feel the vibration, lift, put it down, feel the vibration, and it didn't ask me to add another one once it got enrolling the finger. Now, let's move on to number 2. And this time we're talking about the optional stuff that comes from OnePlus.
Setup Wizard. Co-Creation Labs.
And I believe this is now coming from OnePlus. So let's read this context to see what it's all about.
Co-Creation Labs.
Co-Creation Labs. Let's read the context.
New continuous reading controls.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Participate in the OnePlus Co-Creation Labs to get the latest information and enhanced system experience. By joining, you agree to the terms and conditions. This feature can be disabled under settings greater than privacy greater than experience improvement programs. User Experience Program. Join the User Experience Program to create the finest product design and user experience. OnePlus will not use your information for personal identity recognition. You may choose to opt out of the program at any time. Service Messaging. Enable OnePlus service messaging to enjoy better cloud services by ensured data synchronization every second. You may disable at any time under settings greater than privacy greater than experience improvement programs greater than built-in app updates. Built-in apps. OnePlus will ensure you receive timely updates for all the built-in apps in your device, e.g., phone, contacts, settings, etc. Built-in apps will receive push app updates via improve app stability. You can disable at any time under settings greater than privacy greater than experience improvement programs greater than built-in app updates. Push notifications. For two-way communication, OnePlus may send surveys and product updates via push notifications. System Stability Program. Join the System Stability Program so OnePlus can continue to improve our products. Skip button. Agree button. Double tap to activate.
So there we go. Now, there are several things here that I wouldn't necessarily want to participate in. In other words, I would simply want to participate in things like the system updates and all of that, but all of that push notifications and messaging and all of that, whatever, I don't think I want to be part of that. So I'm going to see if these things are checkable, things that one can check, or things that, one has to agree to everything in one soup. I don't want to do that. Let's see.
User Experience Program. Join the User Experience Program to create the
I'm going to
finest
tap here and
product
see.
design. Setup Wizard. Navigate up.
I
button.
tap there
Double
and
tap to
it
activate.
opens up a window.
Join the User Experience Program to create the finest product design and user experience. OnePlus will not
Okay,
use your
let's see.
back button, window nav bar.
Okay, I don't see anything at the bottom here. Instead, it's just a back.
Setup Wizard. User Experience Program. Join the User Experience Program to create the finest service messaging. Enable OnePlus service messaging. Setup Wizard.
So
Navigate
when I
up.
tap on each of those, it just explains what it is. And my
OnePlus to deliver
expectation was that I should be seeing a checkbox to agree to some of these or not to agree to some of these. This is rather
back,
odd.
but
OnePlus, frankly, I don't like the experience that I'm seeing here because I need to be able to choose what I want and what I do not want. So at this point, I'll just have to tap on the agree or the next at the bottom. I have no way as to whether or not I am automatically entered into these things because there's no checkboxes.
agree button.
This is
Font
horrible.
and display size. Navigate up button.
All right, so
Double
here
tap
we
to
are.
Do you know the difference between font size and display size?
Yeah, I believe I do.
Font size only controls the size of the screen font. Display size controls the size of the font as well as other screen elements like images.
I do.
Sounds great. How does it work?
Okay.
Simply drag the sliders to adjust the font or display.
So all these are visual stuff. I'm just going to go to the bottom and continue.
Apply button.
All right.
Double tap to applying 3 period. Setup wizard. Setup wizard. Navigation style. Portrait. Setup wizard. Navigation style.
So navigation style here, I think this has to do with system navigation, native navigation, whether you want the buttons, nav buttons and or gesture navigations. I believe that's what this is. Let's find the context.
Navigation style. Select your preferred navigation style.
Uh-huh.
Selected. Radio button. Double tap to activate.
You don't tell me what that radio button is.
Not selected. Radio button. Double tap to activate.
Interesting. Those things are not labeled.
Navigation gestures.
Okay, so we got below navigation gestures.
Back. Home. Recents.
Okay.
Learn gestures. Button. Next. Button.
I'm just going to
Double tap
tap the
to
second radio button. They're arranged side by side. And I believe the second
Not
one
selected.
here
Radio button.
that is not
Double
talking
tap to
as to whether it's
activate.
whatever. That should be the navigation gestures.
Selected. Setup wizard. Navigation style.
Okay.
Next. Button.
I'm going to go
Double
next
tap
and
to
see what happens.
Setup wizard. Setup complete.
I'm being told that setup is complete.
Your OnePlus is now ready.
All right. I'm going to tap at the bottom.
Start. Button.
Start.
Device unlocked. System launcher. Unlabeled. You're this pinching hand close to being done. Finish setting up your phone with Google in a minute. Page 1 of 2. Unlabeled. Labels available. Use tap with 3 fingers to view. Labels available. Use tap with 3 fingers to view.
Already we're hearing something unlabeled. Number 3. We are now on the home screen. And I do want to mention here in passing that this comes with Android 12.2 because running out of the box, it's running Android 12. Therefore, actions are not supported. However, we'll see that the actions are supported later on after upgrading to Android 13. So all of my apps were brought from the restoration and I had a total of like 16 or 18 home screens. So I'm not going to bore you with this and we'll move on to number 4. Number 4, let's look at the system settings. So let's go open up the system settings.
Open settings. Button. Settings. Settings. Double
So
tap
here
to
I am
activate.
in the system settings. Let's go ahead though and take a look at the things that we come across here within the settings.
Settings. Search. Search.
So we got the
Double-
search.
Log in with OnePlus account. Log in and link device in My Devices to get special Red Cable Club perks. In list.
Well, I'll be next.
Wi-Fi. The mesh. Mobile network. Bluetooth.
All
Off.
right.
Connection and sharing. Double
Connection
tap
and sharing.
Personalizations.
Next.
Home screen and lock screen.
Next.
Display and brightness.
All right.
Sound and vibration.
Sound and
Double
vibration.
tap. Notifications and status bar.
Next.
Password and security.
Next.
Privacy.
Privacy.
Safety and emergency.
Safety and emergency.
Battery.
Battery.
Double apps.
We've got
Double tap.
apps.
Location.
Location.
Double special features.
Special
double
features.
tap
We're
to
going to come
activate.
back and look at what these special features are.
Digital well-being and parental controls. System settings.
All right.
About device. Users and accounts.
All right.
Google. Tips and support. Tips and support. In list. Window settings.
And I think
Double
that's the
tap to
last item there, tips and support. Indeed, that's the last one. So let's go back though and look
Google.
at the special
Double tap.
features.
Double tap tack. Special features.
Here's the special features.
Special features.
And putting my finger near the top, we've got
Quick launch. Access frequently used functions while unlocking your device. Double tap
that's
tack.
nice.
Split screen. Display 2 apps on the screen for easier multitasking. OnePlus shelf. add widgets and get info on weather, steps taken, and more.
Okay.
Work-life balance, new, strike the balance between your personal and professional life.
Okay.
Scout, unlock a smarter search for in-depth results across apps.
Interesting.
Gestures and motions.
Then we
Double
got
tap to
gestures and
activate.
motion.
Screenshot. Screen recording. Double tap to activate.
There's screen recording and move down.
Home, button,
That's
out
the
of
last item there.
gestures and motions. Permission request. Allow gestures and motions to access your contacts, out of list.
Tap allow.
Allow gestures and motions to make and manage phone calls. Allow, button,
Yeah, I guess.
gestures and motions. Navigate up, button.
All right, so let's see
Double
what we
tap to
got.
activate. Screen off gestures. Use specified gestures on the screen for quick access when the screen is off. In list.
So you could turn this
Double
on
tap to activate.
and do gestures for either playing music. That's what that would entail.
Swipe down with 3 fingers to take screenshot. Take a screenshot. Checked. On. Switch.
So if you're using
Double tap to
TalkBack,
activate.
probably you want to turn this off, most especially if you happen to be one of those that would rather use the 3-finger gestures for changing the granularity. Next.
Touch and hold with 3 fingers to take screenshot. Take a partial or scrolling screenshot. Checked. On. Switch.
Okay.
Air gestures. Control your phone with hand gestures without touching the screen.
All right.
Motions. Heading. Raise to wake. Off. Switch.
I don't want that.
Lift to ear to answer calls. Off. Switch.
So you can lift it
Double
up to
tap
your
to
ear
activate.
to answer the call. If you like that, you turn it on.
Auto switch to receiver. Automatically switch to the receiver when you lift your phone to your ear. Off. Switch.
Okay, I'm
Double
thinking
tap
that
to
would be the
activate.
speaker mode or whatever.
Flip to mute incoming calls. Off. Switch. In list. Home.
And
button.
that's
out
the
of
last
list.
one.
Window nav
So I'm going to
bar.
go back.
Double tap. Overview. Button. Back. Button.
And it has
Double
the
tap to
overview
activate.
on the left, just like what Samsung does.
Special
And
feature.
so they call
Double
theirs
tap to activate.
overview instead of recents. So that's something to keep in mind. Number 5, the camera. And now let's tap on the camera here, and it's the second button from the right at the bottom of the screen.
Camera. Statement of use. Camera is an app that lets you take stunning photos and videos. For permissions that will be used by camera, refer to the privacy notice. Links available. Use tap with 3.
I'm going to
Agree and
tap
continue.
on agree at the bottom.
Camera requires the following permissions. Location info. To add location information to photos or videos, in list.
Okay.
Allow, button. Permission request. Allow camera to access this device's location. Allow camera to access this
While
device
using the app. There we go.
Camera. Flash off, button.
All right. Now let's see if
Double
it tells
tap to
me
activate.
if it sees any faces in the view of the camera. Turning it on my face, and I don't hear anything. So definitely this is one of those things that you may want to use a third-party camera app like the Open Camera, for example. Number 6, audio check. In my review of testing the audio of the OnePlus 10T on both audio playback as well as audio recording, I find it to be satisfactory. For example, the audio sounds nice and crisp. It does not, however, have the boomy sound that we have come to know on Pixel phones. When it comes to audio recording, however, using my HiQ MP3 recorder, I realized that it sounds really good and a whole lot better than the Nothing Phone. The Nothing Phone 2 does not come anywhere close to the sound that the OnePlus 10T recorded. So when it comes to audio and recording, you are good with the OnePlus 10T. Number 7, software update. Upon updating the OnePlus 10T to Android 13, I realized that the behavior of the phone is absolutely different from what it was like when I took it out of the box running Android 12. No longer were those checkboxes not being read, but they were actually being read and heard clearly. So one could choose what they want to opt into, especially there on that screen of the setup with the optional stuff from OnePlus. Also, I realized that when I updated to TalkBack 14, the actions were there. So the home screen of the OnePlus supports actions. The one thing, though, I do want to mention here in passing that kind of irks me is the fact that you don't find a single space in between the items that you find like you would find on a Pixel, where you could easily find a home, so you could just use the actions there to go customize the home layout and all of that. You don't find that, and you have to go to a blank screen. And even when you go to a blank screen, it doesn't say home when you're touching an empty spot. So that will be a problem if you want to customize your home screen right there by simply using the TalkBack gestures. Another thing that I found using the OnePlus that really disturbs me is the fact that the gesture navigation to go back home, you have to swipe several times, and it just doesn't work most of the time at all. And I had to revert to using a TalkBack gesture to go home, something I have never done. I've always used native gestures, but for this one I had to, because I hated having to swipe up with two fingers several times just to go home. For some reason, going back, it works most of the time, but never the going home. So that's the one thing to keep in mind. Number 8, conclusion. In my conclusion about the OnePlus, all I can say is that it is a good device, that is the OnePlus 10T. Now, however, if you're not liking the color OS, because basically that's what it is, it's a color OS, and so things can be a little bit different, most especially that navigation, native navigation, system navigation to go back home is not behaving the way that it ought to. And so if you don't like that, you're probably not going to like the OnePlus operating system. Secondly, I also want to mention here in passing that while it is a great device, an absolutely beautiful device, that I would love to have it, for some reason it did not support my Google Fi Wireless. I could not make nor receive calls. And while setting it up, it simply said some of the features are not going to be working with the device, and I may not be able to make calls. And sure enough, I was unable to make calls. Another thing is that it did not have an eSIM support. So if you're like me and you like using eSIM cards or SIM cards that are not physical SIM cards, this is no-go for you. There's not a single OnePlus device that has eSIM support. Now, I'm not sure if the recent one, the OnePlus 11 or the upcoming OnePlus 12 will have it, but I know for certainty that there has never been a OnePlus device that supports eSIM. So those are the issues you need to think about if you're going to be going down the route of the OnePlus. Make sure that your network is going to be supported. I found an old Google Wireless Fi physical SIM card that's there in my drawer, and that's what I used it with, and it just did not work. I had to at last send the OnePlus back, because even though I love the phone and would love to keep it as part of my museum, I could not in good faith keep it, since it will not come in handy when I need it as a backup. Now, another thing to mention here in passing is the fact that if you turn off the always-on display and all of that, and everything having to do with the display, if you turn everything off, the fingerprint is not gonna activate when you touch where the fingerprint is. In other words, it's not like what you have on Samsung devices. So in order to be able to touch the screen and have it wake up to the fingerprint, you want to make sure that those things are not turned off. Now, I may be wrong, but it appears to me that some of these OnePlus phones are just Apple phones that got rebranded with the OnePlus logo, since they are now one and the same, hence the reason it runs that Color OS, even though they still call it Oxygen, but frankly, it's basically the Color OS. And then, in there, I also want to mention that the accessibility is also found in the additional settings and things like that. So it's a little bit different, and all those sounds, it reminds me so much of the back then, Samsung sounds when they were using the nature UX, that water drops and all of that. It reminds me so much of that, and a lot of it looks like the Samsung One UI with a little bit of a difference. So if you don't want to get a OnePlus phone, you could get an Apple and you'll be good. On the subject of responsiveness, I find the phone to be very responsive, running on that Qualcomm 8 Gen 1 Plus, and absolutely a beauty with that 16 gigs of RAM. So it's a great phone. If you want a phone for performance, this is the phone to get, and it will not disappoint you. I hope that you like this review of the OnePlus, and again, it's a great phone if you don't mind some of those minor issues that I have mentioned so far.
So pretty good phone then, Warren?
It is a good phone. Now, frankly, as I indicated in my review, it's a great phone with 16 gigs of RAM. I mean, it's a speed demon, so to speak. Great phone. However, some of the issues I've mentioned on there, for example, I'm an eSIMmer. I kind of like my eSIMs. And so it's not supporting that. OnePlus had never supported eSIM. I don't know what they're waiting for. I mean, it's 2023. Come on, guys, give me a break. And still they're not doing that. So I'm just kind of like, hey, this is not for me. And even when I put in I found a physical SIM card from Google Fi, that was in my drawer. And I put it on, set it up, and it says, hey, some of the features on this phone may not work for you. You may not even be able to make calls in some places that you usually could. And sure enough, I tried to make a phone call and no go. I had someone try to call me, no go. So I just had to send baby back home to mama. But it's a great phone. With that, Color OS, they want to call it Oxygen. It's no Oxygen, it's Color OS, but it looks so much like a Samsung UI in some ways. But it's a great phone. If you've been wanting to get an Apple, but you're not sure as to whether or not an Apple phone would be accessible, you can be rest assured that it would be, because the OnePlus and the Apple basically the same thing. So it's a great phone. I like the feel of it, and I put it in a case. Absolute beauty. It's absolutely wonderful looking phone. Feels so great, but I just had to send it back. It's a sad affair.
Was the problem with it to do with you being in the States, do you think? Because I know you have some funny mobile technology that nobody else has.
No, it would have worked with if I had like ATT, or it would have worked, but it's just because of Google Fi. Some phones are not working on Fi, and that's the reason why it did not work. But I'm optimistic. Had it been another carrier, it would have worked with no problem. I know that it's here on T-Mobile in the US. They're the only carrier that carries the OnePlus phones. And the funny thing is that, Google Fi actually runs on T-Mobile, and why it didn't work is beyond me.
Yeah, because like CDMA, I could understand it not working with Verizon, if it's a GSM phone, but yeah, that seems odd. Presumably if it was Google Fi, it would have worked, and not
Well,
Google
of course.
Fi.
Yeah, of course it would.
So I know if it were Fi, Fi, you would have made that thing work, right?
Of course, absolutely.
For a monthly fee, obviously. But,
absolutely, which you'd have to pay to me, obviously.
Oh yeah, the fee.
Yeah, of course, I have to pay that.
yeah, you would.
Thank you.
And am I right in thinking that OnePlus 10T doesn't have the slider switch? Is that right?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't have that slider.
And
you remember
right?
we talked about it last week, and they were saying, "Oh, because wireless, whatever." They're liars.
So speaking of the speed, I can totally figure out how fast that phone is, even from the audio review that you talked about. And about the Oppo phones, there are a lot of Oppo users here in Turkey, and there are a lot of issues with especially notification shade. There are a lot of unlabeled buttons, especially if you want to toggle the Wi-Fi or Bluetooth and things like that. So I hope it's going to change.
Oh, no, that's not good. And the one thing that kind of bothers me too was the one I mentioned about the system navigation gestures. For example, just trying to go home, I have to swipe so many times. And even when I changed my launcher to the Ruthless Girl, it still did not work. And I'm like, there's no way under heaven. So I had to, for the very first time, use a screen reader based gesture, something I never do.
Have you tried the clock app? It's totally inaccessible.
I didn't even bother with it because I was
Yeah,
so pissed off.
that's really a trouble. You need to install a third-party clock app because the native clock app on the ColorOS is not accessible.
I wonder with the home gestures whether a few system gestures conflicting. So I know it's not ColorOS, but on MIUI, I had to, in order to be able to type the letter L on on the TalkBack Braille keyboard, I had to go and
Yeah,
disable
they
some
have
gestures.
those gestures too, like 3 fingers, long press, or
Yeah,
up and down.
yeah.
You need to turn them
And
off.
yeah, and I know that in ColorOS they have similar
Yeah,
gestures
yeah,
because I've
yeah.
seen. So I wonder whether there are any other two-finger swipey uppy gestures that prevented, because obviously with you take one finger off if you're a sighted user, so a one finger swipe up goes home. I wonder whether OnePlus had any conflicting gestures that you had to disable in order to get that to work.
I didn't see any conflict, but it's not that it doesn't work. You have to try so many times. It does work, but it
So it
doesn't
worked
work.
eventually, did it?
Yeah,
Okay.
it will work. But let's say, hey, I want to go home. I swipe it. It doesn't go. I have to swipe again and swipe again. And sometimes you're lucky. You try it once, it might, but it's just, I don't want such
Oh well,
inconsistency.
no. What that is then, Warren? That's different because you've obviously had 10 pints. So when you go home first time, you end up in the kebab shop.
Yeah,
You,
exactly.
you
And I
buy.
want to eat something from
Yeah. So,
Sally's
so
house.
next
Oh
next
yeah, I
swipe,
want
next swipe
that.
maybe
I
goes
want
home. Next swipe maybe gets you kicked out the cab because you've been a naughty
that.
boy. So
I
it
guess
can
I
take a
was.
few times to get home. That can be it. That can be the problem.
Well, you could be on a pub crawl and enable the navigation bar before you get home.
Yeah.
You did.
Good one.
And I didn't like that navigation bar because it reminds me of old Sammy, where the overview is to the left. Everything they want
Well,
to copy
you can switch
Samsung
that
in a
though.
way.
You can turn that around.
Yeah, I guess I could, but
Yeah.
anyway, I don't use the nav bars. Rather, would
I
use
do.
the
I use
system
nav.
gesture. I don't.
Yeah.
I
Thing is,
like
for
it.
me, when I'm on pub crawl and I enable the navigation bar, I always want to hit the back button, not the home button.
Exactly.
Austin, you're a OnePlus man, aren't you? Or you used to be.
Yeah, even I was the OnePlus fan. Really, I used the OnePlus 6T device, and that time both the founders of OnePlus were in the company, and that OnePlus 6T and the OnePlus 7 Pro. These were the only two OnePlus devices I used, and both these devices they were made like a tank. Those phones were thicker, not the very thin phones of today, but they were slightly on the thicker side, but they could handle some really rough handling. Today, then, as the founders left, unfortunately, the company's downfall started slowly and now it is again stabilizing. But there are some problems. I don't know if the US people have the problem or other countries people have the country problem, but in India, there is a problem of green tint, that is green lines on the screen after the update. And OnePlus has told that there will be replacement of displays for free for lifetime on some devices. But then when they migrated to Color OS, a partner of Color and Oxygen OS, that time was the real deal breaker because for the OnePlus fans, OnePlus was known for Oxygen OS which was really, really next to clean Android. And really, they had some nice customization, the shelf, and all those, and the alert slider. Who can forget that? But on some phones, they removed the alert slider, and I never really held any OnePlus device after OnePlus 7 Pro. That was a beast of the device. Both these OnePlus 60 and OnePlus 7 Pro will go down in history as my most favorite device after the Nokia 6600, the Symbian phone, not any smartphone that Nokia has launched or will launch with the same number, but the Symbian phone and the OnePlus devices are two devices that will go down in history as my favorite.